If you are someone who's been really wanting to make a career transition, but you're feeling really stuck and you don't really know why you can't figure out what it is or what's going on or how to approach this, this video is for you. I'm going to be talking about breaking the rules and how that is absolutely necessary, 100% necessary if you are going to want to, if you're going to be able to actually make a change and to something that really feels good, something that aligns with your soul, that really lights you up, that energizes you, something that's completely different to the experience you might be having right now. So if this sounds appealing to you, stay tuned. I'm also going to be giving a couple of really hands-on tips. I try to do that in every video, give you something actually tangible to help you move forward. This video is also going to be a little bit more like a podcast format because I really want to have a conversation around this because I see this so often with women, and I'll explain what this looks like in a second, but I see this stops women a lot. And my greatest, deepest desire is for you to feel really good and to love your career, to have it complement your life, for you to step into your power and own your worth and really feel and know how valuable you really are, because that's what this is all about. You know, I'm a career transition coach, but I'm not sort of your typical career transition coach in many ways. This is not just about taking your current resume and pulling some pieces out of it and repositioning you into a new career. No, this is about you connecting with you and actually feeling confident deep in your core and finding a career that resonates with you, that aligns with you, that feels really good. So I want to talk about those rules. Now, actually, I've heard them called something different. I'm going to share that with you because I feel like this term is much better. There is a thought leader, I don't know what you want to call him, but he's written books. His name is Vishen Lakhiani. He's fabulous. He uses the term BRULES. And what does BRULES stand for? Well, BS rules, which I think is actually a perfect term, BRULES. I wish it was mine, but it's not. It's his. I got to give him credit. But what are those? So those BRULES are things that we've been all conditioned to believe and follow. So we all have these ideas of what our career should look like, what success should like, what we're supposed to do. And I mean, if you've been in the corporate world, you know, how you're supposed to dress, how you're supposed to talk, how you're supposed to do freaking everything. And you probably have that in your family as well. Your family probably has certain expectations of you, of what you're going to do in your career and how this is all going to look and what kind of money you're going to make and what kind of contribution you're going to make, or I don't know. There's all these, basically what they are is these massive expectations placed on all of us. And those expectations don't care what we want or feel. They really don't. And I work with women now. I market to women. I still work with women and men. I still have some men clients, but for the most part now I work with women and I market towards women. And, you know, as women, we've also had some additional and different, you know, rules placed upon us that are different than men. Men have their own, don't get me wrong. They've got their own things where they've been, you know, put pressure on them to be a certain way and act a certain way. But so do women. And those are some of the things I want to talk about today that I see come up with women when I'm working with them one-on-one in my coaching sessions. Because, you know, when I see this pattern happen across so many women, I know that this is holding so many women back. And a lot of it are these rules that we've been following. So hopefully now you have an idea of what those rules are, right? And so this is what I see women doing so say this is like the container of all those rules. Okay, this is it right here. All this conditioning, all what we're supposed to do. And they're inside there, okay? So this container of all this stuff. And they recognize they are not happy, they're not feeling good about what they're doing, right? They want something like out here, it's a different experience, that's fun, that's playful, that's joyful. Maybe where you're really making a contribution, where you're feeling really valued and all these beautiful things. But what they're doing is they're staying in here and trying to solve it amongst all these rules. So they're going, I'm going to follow all the rules to get to something out here. Following all the rules in here is only going to keep you in here. You're never going to get out here to something different if you continue to follow all the rules in here. That's the truth of it. I'm going to be really honest here because I want you to shift. I really want you to shift and see this differently so you are empowered to make different choices. But that's really what happens. We're trying to follow all the rules and get to somewhere different. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So, some of the things that I see stops women and some of the areas that women get really hung up on and don't move forward with. I want to talk about those next, specifically geared towards women. But I mean, this happens to men and women. They all stay in this little bubble of their rules, right? For women, we have a hard time, or what I've noticed is women have had a hard time imagining something different for ourselves and really believing at our core, like believing, truly believing that we can have it. If we don't think we ever can have it, then we're not going to take steps, right? Because somewhere in those rules, you were told this is all you're capable of. This is all you're going to get. Somewhere this has been, programmed into all of us on some level, right? And this stops so many women. It's because they just almost like give up before they start because they don't actually believe. So there's somewhere in there is a rule they're following that this is the level you get to in your life. This is it. This is all you're ever going to achieve. And unless they become willing and be willing to actually break that rule and say, no, screw that rule. That's not all I'm going to have for this lifetime. They're going to continue to stay in that existence that's kind of below that line. They're only ever going to reach that ceiling. And we talk about the glass ceiling. I mean, it's been ingrained in us for so many years that there's this glass ceiling. And it's that analogy, if you've ever seen that, where there's an elephant and he's got a chain around his foot and he's not moving, but the chain's actually not attached to anything. He actually is free if he wanted to be, but he's been so used to perhaps being tied up and not actually realizing that it's a self-imposed ceiling. It's a self-imposed chain that's there. I mean, the chain is there, but being tied up to something is self-imposed. And that's what we do. We think there's this glass ceiling of what we're capable of. But we're now at the point in our evolution and in our society where there's way more possibilities for women. And I'm not saying for a minute, I'm not saying for a hot minute that there aren't constraints in the corporate world for women. I am not saying that. But what I am saying is that women aren't even taking steps forward because they feel there is a ceiling there. They're capped. They can't go any further. So that is a really, really big one. Another one that women really struggle with is around family and the people. Women are very much, we're nurturers by nature. I think that's just kind of who we are. Not all of us, and it's varying degrees, right? There's no absolutes or anything, but we somehow feel that if we go for what we want, we're neglecting everybody around us. Like there's this notion that we're somehow not being a good enough partner, not being a good enough daughter, not being a good enough mother, sister, friend. Like somehow we're letting the people down around us by going after what we want. And we can get really stuck in that. And I mean, all I can really say to that is it true? I just ask you, is that true? We get to decide. I mean, we truly get to decide what we want to believe. We have been conditioned to believe that to a certain degree. I believe that. But we get to decide if that is a rule we want to follow. And if not, let's make up our own rules. Like for me, this is me. I have lived my life in the last 18 years following my own rules, making up my own rules. And actually the impetus for a lot of this are my daughters. And it's not a coincidence that my oldest daughter is 18 years old. So I say I've been making my own rules up for 18 years. It's the same time she was born. It was literally the same time she was born. Because I wanted to be able to positively influence her. And then my second daughter as well. So we get to choose. Like, it's going after what I want. Is it actually hindering my relationships or supporting them? Because I've got my daughters now, and they believe anything is possible when they set their mind to it. And I know that is really because of me. Their dad, I'm divorced. Their dad is nothing like that. So it has to be me, right? And so we get to choose, like, what is going after what we want? What is it actually meaning? It's the meaning you give behind it that matters, right? The meaning you give behind it will decide whether you step forward or stay exactly where you are. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is, it's a really big topic, and this is so important for women. I feel like sometimes I want to scream it on the top of a rooftop, especially for women. If we look at, this is so most notably in the corporate world, for sure, in our careers, okay, in our vocation, whatever you want to call it, but definitely the corporate world. We have been told, and this has been reinforced time and time and time again, we're not supposed to kind of have feelings about work. Like, it's just, you go there, you do your thing, and being professional, it means that you're like a robot, really, in many ways. You don't want to show passion. God knows you don't want to cry at work. I don't know a woman who hasn't cried at work, like, honestly. But aren't we told, like, this isn't professional. You're going to be shown that you're weak. You're going to be all this stuff, right? And it's just this logical path you take. Your career is just this, you know, you get your education and you just take this path. What happens? The stories we've been told, the way we've been conditioned, and the rules we've been told is that your career is completely a mind thing. And so when it comes to making a career transition, when you realize, okay, I'm not happy here, you're trying to use your mind still, because that's what we've been told you use in your career. It's all about the brain. It's all about strategy. It's all about, you know, looking around you and getting data and pulling that data in and, you know, reformulating it and doing all these things. But it's all very logical, because God knows we don't want to feel in our careers. Well, guess what? If you want to find something you love that gets you excited, you're going to have to feel. You're going to have to actually tap into how you feel about things, not how you think about them. I see this so often with clients. So I'll ask a client a question. I'll say, we'll start talking about a career, and I'll say, well, how do you feel? And they'll give me a thinking response. And I'll say it again. How do you feel about this? And again, we'll get a thinking response. It's like we've cut ourselves off so much by how we feel in our careers that we're like completely detached. Like, our feelings are over here and our career is over here. And we've got to meld the two together. If you want to find something you love, that's a feeling. If you want to find something that lights you up, that's a feeling. Can't use your brain to get you there. But we've been taught so much that there's no room for feelings in the corporate professional world. Well, perhaps that's why there's so many people unhappy. We're not robots. We weren't born as robots, and women especially. And it's not about letting your emotions run the show. It is so different. They're night and day. Tapping into your feelings and connecting to what you feel and desire and want, and using your discernment about things and not just using your mind, is completely different than letting your emotions run your show. They're so different, it's not even funny. And in fact, when we're not properly connected to our feelings, and we are not honoring how we feel about things, and and making decisions based on that and like honoring ourselves, that's often when our emotions run the show, because we've been ignoring them for so long that we kind of go into a bit of an emotional kind of like an outburst, or just start to get really emotional and not maybe so rational, right? You have to tap into how you're feeling about things. And often we don't, first of all, because we don't know how to when it comes to our career, or that it's okay to, right? Second thing is we might not like the answers, right? So if we're really honest with ourselves about how we feel, because we can rationalize a lot of things. And it breaks my heart when I talk to women who are doing this. So they'll reach out to me and they're like, I want a career transition. I want to do something different. And then we'll have a conversation and they're like, yeah, no, I'm just going to try this thing over here. And I know deep in my heart what that means is I'm not willing to leave that little container. I'm not willing to figure out what I really want. I'm just going to pick something else, because I know deep in my heart that a year down the road, years down the road, that she's still going to be unhappy. You know, I've been doing this long enough. I know how this goes. When we really want something different, we've got to do something different, right? And feeling, like tapping into how you feel about things, being really honest with yourself. That's how you figure out your steps. And yes, we use our mind, but there's more of a connection. You got to use your heart and your mind. It's the two coordinated together. Where our careers up to this point for most people is just our minds. We don't want to go totally in our hearts, otherwise we're not really able to create, right? But there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. But right now, most people are 100% up here. And I want to tag a little bit onto the end of this part right here, because it's really important. Women are intuitive. The problem is most women don't recognize they're intuitive. They don't appreciate their intuition because they're not trusting it. And so they know they feel certain things, they have certain responses, they get certain I call them intuitive hits, but they ignore them because they don't trust them. So part of this journey, and this is what I teach in my program, is when we start to listen to ourselves. We honor ourselves and we listen to ourselves, and we start to build a trust. Building that trust takes time if you have not been trusting your intuition. Chances are you've been getting intuition, but you're not trusting it. Because again, here we are here. And this is, women are incredibly, incredibly intuitive. And I want you to start utilizing, because that is a freaking gift. Like, that is a gift, truly. So I want to give you 2 tips. Like I said in this video, I want to actually give you 2 things you can start doing to help break you out of this container. If you are in this container of following all the rules, all the conditioning, all that crap that's in here. First of all, when you find yourself stopping, so say you want to take action and you find yourself stopping, take a moment and reflect. Why did I stop? What's going on here? Like, what is the conditioning? What message am I telling myself? And you may have to ask yourself that question a few times and dig a little deeper, because eventually you'll get to a rule, a belief, like rule, that's based, beliefs and rules are kind of interlinked. They're not quite the same, but they're linked. We create our beliefs because of those rules, right? But somewhere under there's a rule that you're following. That's you've created for yourself, society has placed on you, family has, and these are all often well-intentioned. It's not like the world's trying to get us, right? But there are these things placed. So dig deeper, because that's going to be able to unlock you from being in this cage, right? Actually creating something out here. And so if you see yourself up against one of those rules, like, ask yourself, first of all, like, is this true? Is it really true? Is it the truth? Chances are it's not. Chances are it's not. And then how can you flip that around? And here's the thing when you start to flip things around. If you've been following a rule for a long time, so say a rule that you've been following is, I have to stay in corporate management. Okay, say that's your whole family has done it. This is what you do, and this is deeply sort of ingrained in you as what you're supposed to do. But you really, really want to become self-employed, which I hear a lot, by the way, which is probably why the example came to mind. Okay, so if you're in that place where you're starting to see that, okay, I'm following this rule, that this rule has been placed upon me. You want to flip it around, but you can't flip it around like that all of a sudden. What happens is sometimes people try to flip it around too fast. And so if you're using something like affirmations, it could be like, it's okay for me to be self-employed, or, I'm going to be accepted in my family if I'm self-employed. It might feel like a lie. Like if your whole family has told you like that is your only option is being in corporate management and you want to be self-employed, it's going to feel like a lie if you were to say to yourself, my family's going to accept me. So what I recommend is you start off with just a shift. So the shift could be, I am open to believing that I will be accepted if I start my own business. I'm open to it. Doesn't mean you believe it now. It just means you're kind of opening that door a crack to something different. And just keep opening that a little more, a little more, a little more. That's how we shift it. That's how we shift out of those beliefs and rules that have been so ingrained in us, okay? So dig a little deeper on it, find out what the core is, and then start to shift it. The second tip, final tip I want to give you, this video is going on for 22 minutes. I knew this was going to be a long one. Is start to listen to your intuition. Okay, now, if you haven't been listening to your intuition, I don't necessarily recommend that you go full all in and make, a big decision, like a massive decision that you can't go back on. Like, I'm not supposed to be at this job. My intuition's telling me not, so I'm going to quit. You know what I mean? Like, don't take a big massive step like that you can't sort of adjust along the way, but start to listen to the little intuitive hits. That's what I did with myself many years ago, is I was always ignoring my intuition and following the rules. And what I had to do was just start to listen to like little nudges. Like it can be something so simple and easy, like when you're driving, all of a sudden you get I should turn this way instead of going the route that I normally take. Turn that way. Like turn that way. If you're going out to eat and you're like, I don't think I'm supposed to be going to this restaurant. Don't. Start to listen to yourself, and that's how you will start to build the trust. Because when we follow our intuition, here's one of the reasons why we don't, is because we don't understand it. Like we don't have a logical reason, But say perhaps you're getting the intuitive nudge to take a different route, like I said, when you were driving, because the route you were on, there was a traffic accident up ahead. If you listen to your intuition and take that other route, you'll never know there was an accident over here. I mean, maybe if you watch the news later, right? Maybe if you go to that restaurant, you're going to get food poisoning. Or maybe if you go to the other restaurant, you're going to meet someone that's going to end up being a friend. We're always being given, in intuition and guidance. And we don't always understand it. And that's often why we don't follow it. So start to follow just the little things. Start to listen to yourself. Because also what it does, it builds trust in your intuition, but it actually also just builds a trust with yourself. Like truly. And having a trust with yourself is going to really help your confidence and actually being able to make those shifts and to create a reality outside of that cage, right? These are all so linked. So I am going to leave this video here. Like I said, it was more of a conversation, but I hope it's landed for you. I hope you've gotten something that you can take away, and if anything, just giving you something to think about, to really, really think about, and where you might be following rules that really aren't serving you. I mean, that's the key, right? A lot of these rules don't really serve us. So if you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. I've got some links down to my socials below. And if you're interested in my coaching program, my email is down below. You can just pop me an email and just say you watched me on a video and you'd love to have a conversation, and we can chat. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Take care.